Get out of here before you embarrass yourself, old man. That's the first thing I heard as I stepped into Iron Ford Gym on a Wednesday evening. My name's Michael, I'm 53, and I spent 2 decades as a firefighter before retiring with more scars and stories than I care to count. The voice came from a guy half my age, Tyler. He was standing with his arms folded, smirking at me in front of a crowd of 20 people, all waiting to see what would happen next. Tyler wasn't just any young hotshot. He was my wife Amanda's new boxing coach. For the past 3 months, she'd been staying later at the gym, talking about private lessons, coming home laughing at jokes she wouldn't share, her phone buzzing long past midnight. I didn't need to be a detective to put the pieces together. I just hadn't decided how to deal with it, until tonight, when Tyler decided to make me his evening entertainment. "You're not man enough for Amanda," he shouted, loud enough for the whole gym to hear. His voice echoed between the steel racks, bouncing off the mirrors. Phones were already out, recording. That's what kids do now, turn someone's life into content. Tyler wanted me humiliated in HD, uploaded before midnight, comments rolling in about the washed-up husband who couldn't keep up with his wife. I didn't answer. I just walked to the nearest bench and set down my jacket. My hands were steady. Years of pulling people out of burning buildings had taught me to control adrenaline like a valve. You don't waste it until you have to. Tyler mistook my silence for fear. He strutted closer, muscles tight under his shirt, flashing that cocky grin at the onlookers. "See this," he flexed, veins popping as he pointed at his arms. "This is what a real man looks like. Amanda deserves someone who doesn't spend his nights falling asleep in front of the TV." Laughter bubbled up from a few corners of the gym. He had his audience. He thought I was about to crumble. I unlaced my boots slowly, one at a time. They weren't gym shoes, they were the same work boots I'd worn during my last year on the force, scuffed and stained, but still reliable. Tyler raised his eyebrows, probably wondering why I wasn't responding. "Come on, old man. Amanda told me you used to be tough, but from what I hear, you've gone soft." That was the moment my blood turned cold. Not because of the words, but because it confirmed what I already suspected. He'd been fishing in our marriage, listening to Amanda complain, building himself up with every detail she shared. He wasn't just after her, he wanted to replace me. I tied my boots back up deliberately, then stood. My body wasn't what it was at 30, but strength doesn't vanish, it just changes form. I looked him dead in the eye for the first time since walking in. "You done talking?" My voice carried, calm but firm. The kind of tone that made rookies in the firehouse stop in their tracks. Tyler smirked, bouncing on his feet like he was about to spar. The crowd shifted closer. They wanted a show, David versus Goliath, except they thought I was the David with no sling. But what they didn't understand was that I'd been through real battles. The kind where hesitation costs lives. Amanda hadn't arrived yet, but I could feel her ghost in the room. The late nights, the excuses, the perfume when she came home claiming she'd showered at the gym. Tyler thought he was the hero in this story, but he'd already lost the moment he chose to make it public. And I was about to make sure he regretted every word he'd just spoken. The second I stood tall, the energy in the room shifted. Tyler tilted his chin, trying to look down on me even though he had maybe an inch on my height. He wanted to play predator, but I'd seen real predators up close, smelled the smoke on their breath, heard the silence that came before walls collapsed. Tyler was just a kid with muscles, confusing mass with danger. "You think you're going to scare me?" he sneered, voice carrying over the clink of weights. "Amanda says you've got a bad back, that you creak when you bend over. You can't even keep up with her workouts. She needs someone who can actually last." The words stung not because they were true, but because I could picture her saying them. Amanda had been sharper with her tongue lately, little digs at dinner, rolling her eyes when I talked about aches or the old firehouse stories. She'd been feeding this boy ammunition, loading him up with my private weaknesses, and daring him to fire them in public. And tonight, he'd accepted the dare. Phones were still raised in every direction. I could see red recording lights reflecting off the mirrors. If this ended with me storming out, those clips would follow me forever, a viral embarrassment. If it ended another way, well, maybe I'd finally remind Amanda what kind of man she married. I took 2 slow steps forward, closing the distance. Tyler puffed his chest and cracked his knuckles, smirk widening. "What's the matter, old man? Need to stretch before you try anything." His little audience chuckled again, the sound grating like nails across metal. I shook my head once. "No, I'm just giving you the chance to stop talking before this gets harder for you." A ripple went through the crowd at that, some whispers starting. Tyler laughed it off. Oh, you're funny. Amanda didn't tell me you had jokes. But you're about to learn that this isn't story time at the firehouse. He threw his first punch then, a quick jab meant to test me, to see if I'd flinch. I didn't move. His fist stopped an inch from my cheek, a feint. He grinned. See? You froze already. But I wasn't frozen, I was measuring. His stance was wrong, his weight on the front foot, shoulders tight. Amateur mistakes wrapped in a good body. He thought he could box, but I saw through it. I took another step forward, chest brushing his. That's your best move? I asked low. His smile twitched. He swung for real this time, a hook aimed at my jaw. The crowd gasped as his arm cut through the air. But instead of meeting his knuckles, I let my head turn just enough, his fist sliding past me like a breeze. His momentum threw him off balance, and I placed my palm gently against his shoulder, pushing. He stumbled backward, colliding with a rack of resistance bands. The slap of rubber against metal made half the room laugh. Lucky old man, he barked, recovering fast, cheeks burning red. Do it again without dodging. He charged at me then, a clumsy tackle move he'd probably practiced on friends. I sidestepped, grabbed his elbow, and let his momentum carry him straight into a heavy bag. His chest smacked against the leather with a thud that echoed like a drumbeat. He spun back around, eyes flashing, more embarrassed than hurt. "Fight me for real," he shouted, his voice cracking with frustration. Around us, the crowd was glued, phones lifted higher, some whispering my name, as if I were already winning a war I hadn't even started. My breathing was steady, heart calm, just like it had been when I carried people out of burning stairwells with smoke choking my lungs. Tyler had no idea that I'd lived in pressure hotter than this. Why should I? I asked, folding my arms across my chest. You're already beating yourself. His lips curled, and then he went for something new. He pointed at me, and then at the door. Tell you what, walk away now and I'll go easy on Amanda. She doesn't need to hear you crying about this later. That comment was the fuse. The room hushed at once. People loved spectacle, but even they could tell a line had been crossed. I stepped in close until my boots were inches from his sneakers. My voice was low enough for the phones to strain to catch it, but every word was sharp. Son, you've been training my wife for 3 months. But what you don't realize is that I've been training for moments like this my whole life. His nostrils flared. He swung again, wild this time sloppy. I ducked, caught his wrist, and twisted, redirecting him until he yelped and spun sideways, his hands slamming against a dumbbell rack. The clang of falling weights was deafening. People shouted, half in shock, half in awe. Tyler scrambled back, flexing his hand, his face twisting with humiliation. I let go and straightened my jacket, standing as if nothing had happened. What's the matter? I said evenly. Amanda tell you I was finished? Looks like she forgot a chapter. The gym erupted in noise, some cheering, some gasping, some just whispering furiously into their phones. Tyler looked around, realizing the audience wasn't laughing with him anymore. His chest rose and fell fast, sweat blooming under his shirt. He wasn't just losing control of the fight. He was losing control of the story. And I wasn't about to give him a way out. Tyler's bravado was slipping fast, and everyone in the gym could see it. His arms twitched with nervous energy, his jaw clenched as he tried to pull himself back into the role of alpha in front of a sea of cameras. I stood still, letting silence work against him. Silence has a weight. In the firehouse, it was the sound between alarms, the thick pause when you didn't know if the building would collapse. Here it was a rope around Tyler's neck, tightening with every second he didn't act. He tried to laugh, but came out brittle. You think this proves anything? You dodged a couple shots, big deal. Amanda told me you'd be stubborn, but stubborn doesn't make you strong. The crowd murmured, a few chuckles rippling, but the energy wasn't with him anymore. He was trying to claw back their attention, but his confidence had cracks now, wide enough for everyone to see. He came at me again, faster this time, a flurry of punches, sloppy and desperate. I didn't bother countering, I just shifted, letting his fists cut air, redirecting his arms until his own power worked against him. Each miss drained him, each failed swing pulling sweat from his forehead. By the time he staggered back, panting, the crowd had flipped. They weren't waiting for me to fail anymore. They were waiting for him to fall. You're telegraphing every move, I said calmly, just loud enough for the phones to catch it. Leaning forward before you punch, dropping your shoulder before you charge. Basic mistakes. He froze, as if the truth of it stung more than the bruises blooming on his arms. His mouth opened, but no words came out. That silence was when the front doors burst open. Amanda walked in, hair pulled back, gym bag slung over her shoulder, expecting just another evening session. Her eyes widened the second she saw the crowd, the phones, and then me standing across from Tyler, his face flushed and dripping sweat. "What the hell is going on?" she snapped, but her voice faltered when she saw his split lip and the scattered weights on the ground. Every head turned toward her, cameras swiveling like searchlights. Tyler tried to recover, straightening up, flexing his arms as if he could fake dominance after everything. "Baby, it's fine," he said quickly. "Just teaching your old man how to stay on his feet." The lie cracked in the air, brittle and thin. Amanda's face went pale as she registered the phones. Her gaze darted between me and Tyler, panic stirring behind her eyes. "Michael, please," she started, but I cut her off by pointing at her trainer. "Ask him, Amanda. Ask him how many punches he's landed. Ask him who's the one on the floor." The crowd erupted in nervous laughter, some voices shouting encouragement, others whispering about betrayal. Amanda's lips trembled as she tried to form a response, but Tyler jumped in first, desperate to salvage what was left. "He's twisting this," Tyler said quickly. "He's jealous, that's all. He can't handle that you're moving on with someone who actually understands you." The words hit the air like sparks near gasoline, and the crowd hissed. Some laughed outright, others just gawked, phones angle higher to catch every frame. Amanda flinched, her hands shaking as she clutched her bag. "Tyler, stop talking," she hissed under her breath, but everyone heard it. I stepped closer, closing the space between us, my boots echoing on the rubber mats. "You wanted this public," I said, my eyes locked on him. "You called me out in front of half the gym. Now you get to live with it." He bristled, but I didn't give him the chance to speak. "You think Amanda needs you because you've got muscles? You think late-night texts and coffee dates make you a man? Son, I've carried men twice your size out of burning buildings while the ceiling was falling down. I've seen real strength, and it doesn't look like this." The gym erupted, cheers mixing with gasps. Tyler's face twisted, but his body betrayed him. His fists trembled, his shoulders sagged, the sweat dripping like rain. Amanda's eyes filled with tears, the weight of her choices catching up with her in front of dozens of strangers, each one recording her humiliation in real time. Tyler tried one last desperate move. He lunged, grabbing a 15-pound dumbbell from the floor, swinging it like a club. Gasps shot through the gym, the crowd scattering. But I didn't flinch. I caught his wrist mid-swing, fingers pressing into a nerve cluster until his grip went numb and the weight dropped with a loud crash. Phones caught the sound, echoing like a gavel striking. His face drained of color as he realized he'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross. "Assault with a weapon," I said quietly, loud enough for the recordings. "That's not just embarrassing, that's criminal." He yanked his wrist back, cradling it against his chest, eyes darting wildly as he looked for escape. Amanda whispered his name, voice breaking, but he couldn't even look at her. The kid who strutted into this moment thinking he owned the room was gone, stripped bare in front of everyone. I let the silence hang heavy again, letting the weight of the moment do the damage. Then I straightened, looked around at the sea of recording phones, and asked one question that made Tyler's face collapse into pure fear. "Do you all see the kind of man he really is?" The roar that followed was deafening, a tidal wave of voices, laughter, and shouts, sealing Tyler's fate with every frame captured. And Amanda stood frozen, watching everything she thought she controlled spiral out of her grasp in a single brutal night. The gym was so quiet you could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights above, the faint rattle of a weight someone had dropped when Tyler swung that dumbbell at me. His chest heaved, his wrist still limp from where I'd pressed the nerve. Amanda's eyes darted from me to him and back again, as if searching for a version of this reality where she still had control. But there wasn't one. Tyler tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "This isn't what it looks like," he muttered, but nobody believed him. Every phone in that room had already caught the dumbbells slipping from his hand, the panic on his face, the desperation in his body language. "It looks exactly like what it is," I said evenly, my voice cutting through the silence like an axe. "You wanted to prove I wasn't man enough? Go ahead, explain to everyone how this worked out for you." A ripple of laughter burst from the crowd. Tyler's face reddened to the shade of raw meat, sweat dripping off his chin. He looked for allies in the audience, but all he found were phones held steady, capturing every twitch of his failure. Amanda stepped forward finally, her voice sharp but trembling. "Michael, stop this, please. We can go home and talk about it." I turned to her, keeping my face calm even though every muscle in my body wanted to shake. Talk about what, Amanda? About how your trainer's been texting you at midnight. About the nights you came home smelling like cologne that isn't mine? Or about how you handed him every weakness I had gift-wrapped so he could try and humiliate me in public? Her lips parted, but no words came. The gym crowd went wild, some whispering, "Oh damn," under their breath, others laughing at the spectacle. Amanda's hands shook as she clutched her gym bag tighter, realizing the private little world she thought she controlled had just been laid bare in front of an entire audience. Tyler shuffled backward, muttering curses under his breath, trying to push through the crowd toward the exit. "Where you going?" I called out. "I thought you wanted to embarrass me. You can't leave before the curtain call." The crowd cheered, blocking his path, phones still raised high. Tyler froze, trapped, his body vibrating with the panic of a man cornered. I stepped toward him slowly, my boots heavy on the mat. "You know what happens next, don't you? Every single one of these videos is uploading right now. By morning, every gym in this city is going to know exactly who you are, the trainer who couldn't land a punch on a 53-year-old man. The trainer who tried to attack with a weapon and lost his grip like a scared kid." His eyes widened as the words sank in. The reality hit him harder than any punch ever could. His reputation wasn't just damaged, it was finished. "Please, man," he whispered, almost begging. "Don't do this. Don't do this." I echoed, raising my eyebrows. "You already did this to yourself. You thought this was about muscles. You thought this was about age. But what you never understood is that real strength doesn't come from a mirror. It comes from knowing when to fight and when to wait. And tonight, I waited long enough for you to destroy yourself." The crowd roared at that, some even clapping, others chanting, "Old man. Old man," like it was a victory celebration. Tyler's face broke, his eyes glassy, his lips trembling. Amanda turned away from him, ashamed, her own pride shattered under the weight of so many witnesses. I didn't need to say another word to him. His downfall was sealed. I turned toward Amanda, locking eyes with her. She opened her mouth, desperate to salvage something, but I cut her off. "When you get home, you'll find divorce papers on the kitchen table. My lawyer already has the texts, the photos, and the proof. You wanted a new man? Congratulations. You chose a boy, and now you'll both live with it." Her face went white, her hands trembling so badly she dropped her bag, the sound echoing across the floor like a final verdict. People whispered, some recording her as closely as they had Tyler. Her humiliation was complete, and she knew it. I walked past her without another glance, past the crowd that parted like a tide, phones still raised. At the front desk, the gym manager stood frozen, jaw open, having watched the entire ordeal. I leaned in close enough for him to hear me. "You might want to review your trainer policies, and maybe prepare for what happens when those videos hit the internet." His Adam's apple bobbed, but no words came out. I left him standing there as I pushed through the doors into the cool Denver night. The air outside felt cleaner than it had in months, crisp and sharp, like freedom. Behind me, the muffled roar of the crowd followed, sealing the end of one chapter of my life. 6 months later, I was sitting on my balcony in a new apartment downtown, the sun setting over the Rockies. I sipped my coffee, phone buzzing with notifications. Tyler's downfall had spread far beyond Denver. Clips of him swinging that dumbbell and dropping it in terror had gone viral, turned into memes, shared millions of times. His career in fitness was over. The last I'd heard, he was working at a supplement store recognized daily by customers who laughed at his humiliation. Amanda hadn't fared much better. Word of her affair had spread through her social circles, and she'd been forced to move in with her sister after the divorce left her with nothing. People whispered behind her back, not out of pity, but out of judgment. She had gambled everything on a boy and lost it all in front of an audience that would never forget. Me. I ran again. The trails around Washington Park, the same ones I'd avoided for years, were mine once more. My body ached, sure, but every step felt lighter than the last. I wasn't running away anymore. I was running toward the man I'd always been, the one Amanda forgot she married. And the funny thing? I never once felt old. Strength isn't in the years you've lived, it's in the battles you've survived. And if you're still here listening to this, if you felt that same surge of justice when the truth came crashing down, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and share your thoughts. Because stories like these aren't just about revenge. They're about reminding the world that real strength never fades.